Well, TV fans, Penny Dreadful City of Angels brings viewers on a trip through LA noir 1938 mystery story tinged with a little bit of supernatural drama. And I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby. With me is Paco Cabezas, the director for some episodes on this Showtime series. And Paco, thank you so much for joining me here. I'm was noticing you've actually worked with the creator John Logan before on a few episodes of the original Penny Dreadful series. So I'm just kind of wondering, what does it add to the process when you already have sort of a little bit of a working relationship with the creator?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying my name properly, because because it's a Spanish name and sometimes people don't get it right.
I try.
So good job on that. And secondly, yeah, I mean, the thing is like, funny thing is like Penny Dreadful was my first TV show that I directed, a few years ago. And I was supposed to direct only one episode. And then I had a conversation with Joe Logan over the phone, and we were talking about what Penny Dreadful meant to us and how, for me, it was about this strange Gothic family that loved each other and wanted to kill each other and wanted to have sex with each other. And when we talked about it, he said, "Well, you really get my show, and I think you should do 2 episodes." And then when I was shooting my 2 episodes, suddenly something happened with the director who was supposed to direct the last few episodes, the last 2 episodes of this, of not only the season, the show itself. And then they just said, "Hey, you should come by the office like tomorrow, because I know that you're supposed to leave on Wednesday, but you gotta stay and direct these 2 episodes." And it was an amazing experience. I mean, me and John, we get along really well, and we know each other really well. Specifically with John, what happens is that he's great with character, he's great with dialogue, he's great with everything regarding script. When it comes to horror, he has a lot of he has a sense of horror, but sometimes it's not as specific as I am, because I come from independent horror. So sometimes in the script you read and Maria is entering the room with Santa Muerte, and something really scary is going to happen here. I mean, not necessarily that, but it's actually an example. But that was great, because that was allowing me, he was giving suggestions, but he was very super open for me to bring suggestions visually and in terms of the Mexican culture, which I know very well. So it was, a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Or hell.
Oh, yeah, for the show, more appropriate. You've done the first 2 episodes of City of Angels, and with the premiere, you kind of get to really set the tone for the whole experience. And the tone is much different from, the first series of Penny Dreadful was very Gothic, Victorian-based, and this one is in 1938. It's in Los Angeles. It's more sun-soaked. So what was the conversations? What was the most important thing for you in terms of setting the tone of the series?
I mean, the thing is that, although I'm a big fan of Chinatown and many other references, so if you think about it, there are not that many movies that happens in Los Angeles in the 1930s. It's like Chinatown, and you have LA Confidential, you have LA Noir, which is a great video game, but it's like there's not that many things that happen in the city. So it's a very virgin territory for us to play. So things like my first conversations with John were we were talking a lot about the light and the color, because we wanted to make it like a sunny noir, where the words that we're using in a way, where everything has to feel vibrant and alive, especially with this family. It's like I felt very close, because I come from a family that is really like the Vega family in a way, but in Spain. So to me, I wanted to make this family real. Sometimes when you watch movies from the 1930s that were made in the 30s, it feels like three-dimensional, and everything feels a little like phony and fake. So I wanted to make it, although it's happening in the 30s, it has to feel real and vibrant with those colors. So my obsession with this family specifically was to make them realistic and alive, and that kind of happened all over the show, especially again with the light. Like the skin of the Vega family, since the skin is not totally light, it's a little dark, that gives, when they're sweating, it's like, I love that scene in the ending of episode 1, where we have the Mexicans and we have the policemen, and they're all sweating under the sun and fighting, and I mean, it's a gift. I mean, aesthetically, that this show is a gift for me as a director.
Yeah, one of the scenes that stood out to me in that first episode was when the two detectives, Tiago, who's the first Chicano detective, played by Daniel Zavato, and his partner, played by Nathan Lane, they come into the LA River Basin and discover those bodies. And we've seen, that location is seen in a lot of different TV and film, but your scene here has so much, it's very ominous and foreboding. And what went into that scene to make it feel different than
yeah, it's true that it's complicated, because if you think about it, you have to make a horror scene in plain sun. It's like that's what makes it special, I think. Because for me, I have done so much horror. I've done many TV shows that starting with Penny Dreadful. And of course the place to go is to go to the Gothic streets of London with the fog and the night and the darkness and all of that, and to go exactly the opposite way. It's tough, but at the same time, it's like I said, it's a territory that hasn't been, that it's very new. So for me, that was very, very exciting. But when we were I remember when we were preparing the scene and preparing this how we were going to place the bodies and how we were going to move the camera. I mean, for me, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to answer these questions, because for me, like shooting a movie or a TV show is like robbing a bank. It's like you're saying, I have this book that I prepare, and I used to do the storyboards all the time, and now every time that I'm going into a new TV show, I just make a book where I print the pages of the script in a small size, and leaving enough space in the rest of the book to kind of like do my drawings and put pictures and references and ideas and stuff. And in this specific, scene, the place was so beautiful, and so it was like a church in a way, because you have the arches, so right. So you can shoot outside the arches, but you can shoot like put the camera down and use the space, and see how beautiful it was, and to me, sometimes with violence, it's the same thing. The grittier and the most gruesome scenes are, to me, the most beautiful to shoot. So I don't know how to answer that question. It's like I just have a feeling where I should put the camera, and then it happens.
And speaking of placing the camera, I was lucky enough to speak with several of the actors on the show so far, and they all, many of them sort of appreciated that there was this massive physical set to work with, even though it's a period piece. There are these a big physical production for this show. Mm-hmm. Does that also aid you in terms of being able to put your camera anywhere on the
screen? Yeah. That was beautiful. I mean, the only problem was, we had a beautiful set. We had a beautiful city. In a way, it was a whole city that we built. And that allowed us to move the camera everywhere. And especially, one of the things that was really useful is like all the buildings that we had, they were tall and they were all built. So when you have to do low angles, normally you will only build like the first floor, and then it's just green screen, and that gets boring sometimes. So it allowed us to do as many angles as we wanted. And then when we were in the city itself, in Los Angeles, it was tough to find places that were from the 1930s. It's like, for instance, there's a scene in Pershing Square, and if you go now to Los Angeles, Pershing Square it's been redone like 1,000 times. It's pretty much, with all due respect, it's pretty ugly now. It's just concrete. It was redone in the 70s or something. So it doesn't look at all like the Pershing Square that we had in the 30s, which is all green and beautiful, like a little Central Park. So in that scene, we had to find a part that looked like that, but then we had to make digital extensions. And at the same time, from watching those movies, from watching Chinatown and all those movies, I saw that in every one of those films, they had very steady shots. They were like all the time, like every time the actor was coming out to the street, it was like one shot from this perspective, because a little bit to the left you have a 7-Eleven, and a little bit to the right you may have like, I don't know, whatever. So it was very steady and very difficult. So my obsession with this show is just to move the camera as much as possible, so you have the feeling that you're traveling back in time. And also that works for the actors too. It's like my experience with actors is like. Working with actors, there's many things that I can talk with. I love working with actors, but the main thing for me is like when you work with an actor, it's like preparing a like a party, like some sort of like secret party that you're preparing for them. So when they come to set, they find these things and they're like, wow, they're reacting in the end. They are acting, but they're mostly reacting to things that are prepared by me and my crew.
Yeah, and you have a great cast on this with Nathan Lane, Natalie Dormer, Adriana Barraza, Carrie Bichet. It's a fantastic ensemble. And I'm really fascinated with Natalie Dormer's character Magda because she's a shapeshifter, this demon who takes on multiple characters. And I was wondering, how did you have to think of those personas of different ways to capture them to make them all feel even further distinct and different?
I mean, with Natalie, here's the thing. Natalie, I've worked with probably another actress that was like Natalie, which was Anna Kendrick. I made a movie with her, and they're very similar in the way they approach their characters. It's like Natalie, she's like a supercomputer. She is in control of every muscle on her body and on her face. So she's very in control and she knows what she's doing all the time. You know, it's like, and that's a challenge for the director because it's not that kind of actress that we should see her stealth all the time, that she's at the monitor all the time. But I knew that I had to earn that trust because we hadn't worked together before. So at first she was coming with proposals for her characters, and in the end, what to me was beautiful. In the end, it's like every proposal that she brought to the table was something physical, but it was something simple and was something unique. In the end, if you think about, for instance, her portrayal of Alex, it's just glasses and something in the eyes, these little lenses in the eyes, and that's it. You know, it's like it's just a costume and how she arcs her body and her shoulders and how she walks. And it's like, I love that actress that we're not relying on any makeup or any digital effects or anything. And she actually looks like 4 different people. You know, it's like, and honestly, it was so. I wish I could say it was. I did a lot, and we worked together a lot. I mean, we did, but it's like it was all her. I mean, she came to set, and she was always ready, and she was always perfect. So it's like it's all, you know, it's her.
Did you get much of any rehearsal time before preparing for these scenes? Because the arcs of the characters work out really well. So what was the rehearsal process like, if at all?
I mean, here's the thing, that I'm not a big fan of rehearsals, although we did it in the show. Like for instance, I made a movie in Spain, and we didn't do it in the show, but sometimes what I do is like I ask the writers to write different scenes, like scenes from the past of the characters, so we don't burn the scenes that we're supposed to shoot, so they feel like repeated. You know, it's like sometimes we did some rehearsals with very, very specific scenes, and scenes, for instance, with the kids. We want to see the dynamics in between Rory, Peter Kraft, and the kids, and wife, and Maria, and those things were a little tricky with the movements. So we rehearsed those, and we rehearsed the first scene with the Becca family because I wanted to make it as live as possible. But I don't like to over-rehearse. They were very simple rehearsed. It was probably an hour or something like that, and we just talk. I mean, the things like I always talk with the actors a lot. You know, it's like I have long conversations with each one of them separately. We talk about the characters. So when we're on set, we're creating in the moment and we're creating emotion. And that to me is very important. It's like sometimes when I have to, the toughest thing for me as a director is when I'm a producer on a show and I have to look at other directors working and I can't work with the actors. That's really, I can't take it. It's really hard for me. And also because some other directors, which I won't say, sometimes they separate themselves from the actors and they go into the big tent with the big monitors and they're not close to the actors. While me or other actors that I've worked with, we are as close as possible to the actors. I think that's super important. So when the actors, I have a very small monitor and I get very close to the camera and I'm very close to the island of the actor. So every time that they finish a take, you're just there. You know, you don't have to because I'm a big believer not in rehearsals, but in creating a zone. When you're shooting a scene, you're creating this safe space with the actors. And I'm a big fan of making, all my work is going towards trying to make this safe space like happy and like a fun place for the actors to be, because in the end actors are, and I always thought that, although sometimes I don't say it, but to me they're like children, it's like, and children, they can do wonderful things and they can cry, they can laugh, they can do these amazing things, but they have to feel safe and feel that there's somebody's listening and somebody's very close. And to me that's way more important than having a shitload of rehearsals.
Yeah. Is it, because you mentioned the other directors on a series, is it ever difficult sort of only getting to direct a piece of the overall arc of the season? Because you have 2 episodes here and then it's passed off to a few other directors. Is it a difficult thing for you to not have the whole arc of the season?
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could direct everything, but it's like, your mind is divided in 2, because on one piece of your mind saying, I would like to do everything, and then another piece of your mind saying, chill, relax. It's like you're gonna die, because it's actually exhausting. It's like, it's very, one of the things that they don't tell you in film school, although I never went to film school, is that this job is really fucking exhausting. It's like physically and psychologically, it drains you. It drains your energy, because it's like, at least that's how it works for me. Every job that I've done, especially with Penny Dreadful, which is so close to my heart, I give everything. And I feel that the energy that I give to the show, you can tell that is there. And it's important that you can transfer that energy into the show. So in the end, you're like the show is like a vampire. It drains you, So if I've done like 10 episodes, I will be dead probably.
Right. Well, you mentioned a great scene previously that I wanted to ask you about before letting you go, which was that final sequence, the standoff between the police and the Chicano community. It's such a great use of tension as the camera's panning down and you see Natalie Dormer coming in and whispering, finally landing on that man who's the nervous cop with the trigger finger. What goes into such a huge scene and huge moment like that to create that bubbling over of tension?
It's really hard. First of all, you need a great script. In that specific scene, John was super specific and he had every image super well described. That first of all. And then we storyboarded everything, and then we went to the place where we shoot it, and we have to find the right place with the position of the sun, what's the right position of the sun, because of course when you see just at the beginning, the shot of the policeman and the shot of the Mexicans, and then always the sun has to be behind them, so it looks beautiful. So you have to shoot these shots of the policeman in the morning, and then you have to shoot these shots in the sunset in the afternoon. So it's like, you have to have the scene divided in pieces, but you have to know every piece of the puzzle like super perfectly. So because you're shooting everything all the time out of order. And then of course with the stunties, to me, it's I've shot a lot of action in many other shows. To me, this was a challenge, but to me, it's so much fun, because in the end, it's about creating this little vignettes, these little scenes with these little conflicts in between people fighting. And sometimes you see them in the big picture, you see it in the wide shot, and sometimes you see them behind some other actor, and you just move the pieces. It's like working with a big canvas, and to me, that's great. That's fascinating. And it took a while, but I remember that very last shot of the scene when we see, spoiler alert, we see Tiago, who killed his brother, who shot his brother, and then you have Santa Muerte on one side of the frame and Magda on the other side of the frame. And we shot that with a phantom camera. I think it was 2,000 frames per second. And I remember talking with John about that shot. It was like, if you're sure you need that fucking camera, go for it. But you guys it has to be amazing. And I remember when we shot that, we hit playback, because we could play it back up to 1,000 frames. All the crew came to watch that shot, especially Natalie. I remember she came and she was looking at herself on Santa Muerte, and the shot was so beautiful, and it was such a beautiful way to finish the first episode, the pilot. To me, it was like, for this shot, the whole episode was worth it.
Yeah, well, it sets up the show beautifully, and so congratulations on Penny Dreadful City of Angels. Everyone who's watching at home, make sure you subscribe to Gold Derby and keep in touch with us throughout Emmy season. And Paco, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thanks to you, man.